Today I've got with me a 15 Pro that I bought off of a friend, the 16 Pro that I had for a couple of months, and the 17 Pro that I've recently been testing. And I want to share with you everything that has changed between these three models. The very first place I want to start is with the design of the 17 Pro or 17 Pro Max. And if you look at these devices, so much has been made of the design, whether it's the choice of the material or it's the look of the devices, right? But what you have to do is put on the eyes of the user that this is being catered towards. The capability that these devices have, such as ProRes video recording, Pro RAW photo shooting, the processing power that they have, all that capability, right? The main reason you have that aluminum here, it's for function. Simply because if you want to eliminate heat, which is something that the iPhone 15 Pro introduced and also the 16 Pro, simply because the 15 Pro was the first one to bring titanium into the mix, coming from that stainless steel that we saw on the 14 Pros and generations prior. And you see, when you go back and pick up something like the iPhone 15 Pro, you realize that there's a big weight change, right? You hold the 15 Pro next to the 17 Pro, and you're automatically going to feel that change in weight because of the bigger batteries that are in the 17 Pro. And you'll also notice the thickness relative to the 15 Pro more so than you will with the 16 Pro. But again, coming back to all the utility that these devices are providing you, it's almost as if you have no other choice, right? It's either you're going to get the utility out of this to eliminate that heat, you add in the vapor chamber, you switch to aluminum so it can move around that heat easier. That's the reason that all these changes have been made. And yes, one could argue that compared to the titanium of the 15 or the 16 Pro, you gave up a lot of durability. And that is something that we're going to look at because my friend used this device for 2 years straight without any case. That's why the back glass ended up cracked, but he was so close to these new phones coming out that he didn't even bother changing it out. That's why I bought it off of him because I was like, you know what? I would love to just experience this phone once again for myself, just so I can refresh what the 15 Pro was like compared to the 17 Pro. And I was instantly reminded of what a good change this aluminum finish is, simply because when I went to set this up for myself, and then I set up the 16 Pro again for myself, right? And I could notice how much hotter those devices got compared to the iPhone 17 Pro, which stayed relatively cool, all because of that vapor chamber and also the aluminum finish. It's like Apple was looking at these devices and they're like, you know what? Where we're pushing the direction of this device to the consumer that we're targeting, right? You have to make this change. So it's like they were like, you know what? Throw away the beauty of this device, throw away the fancy materials, the durable materials. Let's make this a utilitarian device. And that's exactly what happened. But then think about this, when you take away beauty, right? You're like, okay, well, how do you add a splash? Give it color, right? You give it a orange color, you give it the blue color, and you change up the look and you make it look different. This is why I compared this to a pickup truck, simply because a pickup truck is not made to look beautiful. It's rugged, it's tough, it's gonna go on that adventure with you, and this is exactly what this device does. And to be honest with you, as much as I love this natural titanium color, I was a huge fan of this just because it it's such a flat and good looking color. It ages really well, right? I also did like the space black on the iPhone 16 Pro, but now that I hold these three devices, I would have to say that the 17 Pro feels the best in the hand. The rounded corners and the material feels really soft. It really feels good to hold in the hand. And you know, if you want durability, just throw a case on here. It's not that difficult. Throw a case on here, but what this device is able to give you now is excel in regards to the performance that you found on the 16 Pro or the 15 Pro, simply because the function is so important here that it's made some changes with its form to compensate having more function and more utility. Now, another design element to point out is the camera control button here on the 15 Pro. So if you have one of these and you have been using this for 2 years, you don't have the camera control button. The 15 Pros introduced that action button, right? But then with the 16 Pro, you got the bigger display and then you also got camera control. And you find that here on the 17 Pro as well. So if you are coming from a 15 Pro, you're gonna get the camera control button and that larger display as well. Now let's switch from the design and go a little bit under the hood to see what changed. And so let's go back to the 15 Pro. And here you have your triple camera system, right? But you had a 48 megapixel main camera. You didn't have that on the ultra wide, you didn't have that on the telephoto. Those were both 12 megapixel. Then, as the phone slightly increased in size to the 6.3-inch screen, you went for 48 megapixel main still, but then you added the 48 megapixel ultra wide. And now with the 17 Pro, you've got all three cameras, 48 megapixel across the board. So it's going to give you more quality. But the one thing that you need to remember is that what you're not going to see change is that main lens, which, as I was showing in my 17 Pro and Air comparison, if you go to that video and look at just like the camera section, what you're going to realize is that your device uses software a lot to rely on this main lens. So a lot of what you're doing, whether it's cropping into that 8x, right? It's all happening here with that main lens. So you're not going to see like a drastic improvement in photos or even video. But this is just going to outperform both of these devices because it can do those things longer. Whether it's gaming, whether it's using the camera, it is going to be able to give you that extra push you need to go a little bit further. Now, if we move over to the front side, right? And for this, again, we'll go back to the 15 and 16 Pro. Regardless of whether you're coming from one of these two devices, you're going to notice a huge improvement in the front camera simply because instead of being a 12 megapixel, I believe, it is now on the 17 Pro and Pro Max and also the regular 17 and the Air. You've got an 18 megapixel, but that's not all. You've got a square sensor, which really is great for people that are going to be targeting this device, right? Let's say you're doing content creation or you just love to record the best quality video or the best quality photos with your device, right? You're really going to enjoy this front camera because the square sensor gives you that versatility to just hold your phone straight, shoot in landscape, also lets you do dual video capture, which is like you can record with the front and rear camera at the same time. Also, if you are using ProRes video, then you're going to love the addition of the 18 megapixel because now you can shoot in ProRes log format, attach an SSD onto here, and also take advantage of the front really good camera, which just makes content creation easy. And I, trust me, understand this simply because 3 years on this channel, I spent like recording all these videos with my iPhones. So I really got to understand how these cameras work and everything. And that versatility that you get here with the camera at the front, you're really going to love this. Now, another thing that you're really going to love coming to the 17 Pro from the 15 Pro or 16 Pro, both of these, even though from the 15 Pro to the 16 Pro, you had that slight bump in the display. Also, here on the 15 Pro, you didn't have the always on display. It was a ProMotion display, but it didn't go down to 1 nit of brightness, which the 16 Pro introduced. And then from the 16 Pro, you go to the 17 Pro, then you've got that 3000 nits of max brightness. And I immediately noticed that again when I went to pick up this phone from the Apple store and I'm using it outside. I'm used to using my Air, which has again the same display as the 17 and 17 Pros, right? And so immediately I noticed that my display wasn't as bright outdoors. It really makes all the difference. Now, speaking of the performance side of things, here on the 15 Pro, you had the A17 Pro, then we went to the A18 Pro, and now in the 17 Pro, we have the A19 Pro. And not only is this a really efficient chip, but it's really powerful And the other thing is combine that with the vapor chamber, it makes all the difference. Now, I would be lying to you if you are just casually using this phone, right? Like day to day. The things that I do is like a little bit social media, texting people, maybe take a couple of snaps here and there. You're not going to be tapping into that performance whatsoever. But if you are gaming for extended periods of time, if you're shooting ProRes video for extended periods of time, and you notice that your 15 Pro or 16 Pro get really hot and it bogs down the performance, then coming to this device, you're going to notice that change right away. You can feel like that this whole phone gets warm. So like if you're holding this right and you're like gaming, or let's say you're shooting in ProRes video with an SSD attached to it, you're gonna notice like the entire phone gets warm. And that's just thanks to the vapor chamber just moving all that heat around. And that keeps the A19 Pro churning for a longer period of time, which again gives you that added performance boost. The next thing I want to discuss is battery life with these devices. Now, obviously, if you've had a 15 Pro for 2 years, your battery life is probably not the best right now simply because your battery has aged a little bit. This is why I recommend using that 80% charge limit. That's what I like to do, 30 to 80%. Nonetheless, it improved to the 16 Pro, and here on the 17 Pro and Pro Max, on the 17 Pro, when I've tested it, I've been able to get 6 to 7 hours of screen on time simply because like I tested from 80% down to 30%. And in that time, I'm usually getting around 3 hours of screen on time. And that's with light camera usage, that's with outdoor usage. So I'm not always on Wi-Fi. That's with auto brightness, that's with a smart ring paired to this device the entire day, and also AirPods because I've been testing not only the AirPods Pro 3, but also the AirPods 4 with noise cancellation. So I think that's really good. For someone like me, I'm a pretty light user. Like my personal device is the iPhone Air, and I usually cap off at around 3 hours of screen on time. So even this gets me through the day. But considering that you are getting this Pro device, you might be a little bit of a heavier user, right? And I don't see why you should have any trouble getting through the day if you're doing 6 to 7 hours of screen on time. The next thing I want to talk about is durability of these devices. And here I want to talk about titanium and aluminum. Now, if you look at both of these metals, obviously aluminum is softer. It's not going to be able to withstand abuse the same way titanium does. But then if you look at this in the grand scheme of things, you kind of have to make this choice to switch to aluminum, right? To just manage heat, give you that extra added performance and everything. And yes, like this device is a perfect example of how durable titanium is because my friend used this device for 2 years straight. No case, just simply taking it day to day, and hence why it ended up with a back glass that was cracked. But if I look at it all around, yeah, the titanium's been really durable, but on the front, there's just too many scratches. And if you ask me personally, I don't care what device it is, whether I've had like the 13 mini or now currently the iPhone Air, I'm always going to put a case and glass screen protector. And that's what I'd recommend you to do, especially if you're going to be out and about and really, working with the cameras of this phone. There's going to be a time where you're going to drop it. There's going to be a time where you're going to bump it into something. And so, yes, you could rock it without a case. And if you do, it's going to get scratched up. That's just bound to happen. Even this titanium that's so durable, it's going to get scuffed up. It's just how things work. So, I personally would recommend putting a good case on this and just enjoying the overall benefit of added aluminum and not really worrying about it. Now, even though I myself am not a pro user, I like to look at every device with the lens of the user in mind that is catered for the device. And if I look at this as a pro user, this device packs a ton of capability. This has a lot of utility, and if you're getting this, then you want to dig into that potential of this device. Otherwise, it's like you got a Porsche or something, right? And you just leave it cleaned in the garage all the time. Because the moment that you like strip away those like added utility features like ProRes and ProRAW, you're not really taking advantage of this device. You're better off like looking elsewhere, whether it's the standard 17 or maybe you want to try something new with the iPhone Air. But if you're looking for the most versatility in terms of camera, the most performance that you could possibly ask for in a device, this does that really, really well. I hope you found some value here. If you have any specific questions, whether you're coming from a 15 Pro or a 16 Pro, you drop them in the comments down below and I will do my best to help you. And like always, all I ask is just give me a thumbs up so more people can find this video. And most importantly, take care of yourself and I will see you in the next video.